August 27th will see Travis Touchdown return in the third main entry of the No More Heroes series, which I've greatly enjoyed thus far. It was a series I wanted to check out for a few years prior to, and the catalyst for finally diving in was the announcement of Travis Strikes Again, spin-off and the first No More Heroes game to appear on the Switch. It's been out for a couple of years now, but seeing as there's still a month left until 3 comes out, what say we give this a look over? One of the most exhilaratingly difficult fights in the first game was against baseball bat wielding maniac Bad Girl. Travis Strikes Again kicks off with her dad Bad Man looking to avenge his daughter. He finds Travis hiding out and begins a fight before the two get sucked into Rare Games console Death Drive Mark II. They then decide to venture their way through 6 of the games developed for the hardware to be granted a wish at the end. The presentation is a lot more unique than the previous entries. There's less voice acting, and some of the cutscenes for the games in the Death Drive get rather inventive. It could be random, but pretty darn funny. A lot of the writing got several snickers out of me. It's my sense of humour, so I found quite a bit of entertainment in the dialogue and cutscenes. The only part of storytelling I didn't like is this mode known as Travis Strikes Back, which is essentially a visual novel you have to experience to get the death balls, which lets you play the next game in the Death Drive. Again, I like how unique the presentation is, and there is still funny writing here, but you can't skip them, and the first one lasts a good 10 minutes! Oh man, I thought I was done with lengthy cutscenes after the Metal Gear Solid series. This just isn't the type of game I want that amount of story given to me in one go without any gameplay. But still, I've got to appreciate how wacky and enjoyable the stylish quirks are. It really sets itself apart from most games nowadays. But even though this is labelled as a spin-off to the No More Heroes series, when you get past the quirky exterior, it's the same formula as the previous 2 games. Being sucked into the 6 games is a substitute for going to fight the different assassins, and while you'd think having these different games you'd go into would vary things up, especially given the cutscenes that open them, they all play the same and it's still hack and slash action like the previous entries. The games do have little quirks between them, but I'll get to those later. Let's look at the basic gameplay first. The main difference between the classic No More Heroes formula is the fixed camera perspective at a distance from Travis. I guess another change up would be that you can choose to play as Badman too, but honestly, I felt little to no difference in their playstyle, so I just assigned all the special moves to Travis and stuck with him. Oh, speaking of, you can get these moves which you assign to one of the 4 main buttons on the controller, let them charge up, hold L and press the button to use an extra powerful attack on your enemies. Hit enough times and you can use R to do an even stronger move. While twiddling the right stick as a replacement for shaking the Wii remote doesn't always feel responsive, and no, I didn't use the Joy-Con only controls, these moves feel appropriately satisfying to pull off. As for the rest of the fighting, it's mostly similar to the other games in that there's a lot of button mashing. You have either a weak quick attack or a strong attack which takes longer to hit. Well, only like a second more, so I mostly just spam that. It's a little annoying how you can't cancel an attack to dodge. If you press the strong attack button twice in quick succession, you have to wait for Travis to deal 2 hits unless he gets hit himself. But outside of that, it works fine. But having efficient controls is one thing, what about the entertainment factor? Well, I found the gameplay incredibly mindless and repetitive to the point where the boredom set in after only half an hour of playing. But the second game struggled with repetition too in its second half, and really the whole thing was very combat heavy without the jobs to break it up, so how come I still liked the game very much? Well, for as monotonous as some of the fighting scenarios got, you still had to dodge attacks, and where it was mostly one-on-one duels, you couldn't just turn off your brain and do it on autopilot. Compare that to Travis Strikes Again, where there is a role option I didn't use that often and you fight against hordes of the same skeleton-looking guys constantly. Travis has always felt like a bit of a one-man army, but this was overkill. Admittedly, these kind of fighting games don't really appeal to me, where you're up against lots of enemies at once and can plow through them with ease. I actually began to play Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity for a review, but after the first mission, I found myself severely tired with the samey gameplay and felt very little incentive to continue. It's cool for a bit to fight against massive hordes, but the novelty wears off quickly. And while the groups of enemies you fight in Travis Strikes Again aren't even remotely as big as they are in a Hyrule Warriors, I felt a very similar fatigue. And what's more frustrating, oddly enough, is that it's not difficult. Some enemies can block attacks for a moment, but they'll hardly flex your skills. You just keep hitting them, so on and so forth. If maybe I had to shake up my strategy or there was a bit of challenge, then that's something. But no, you just move from easy encounter to easy encounter with little challenge. Even the boss fights, where the series really put you to the test and force you to dodge and time attacks flawlessly, there's none of that here. Just hit him a lot and boom, you're done. All of the unique visual quirks and style disguise how bland the actual game feels. Each new game within the game do attempt to vary between them. There's this Layton-esque puzzle you roam in, which is initially neat before that gets old, and this house you explore for coffee and donuts, which again gets old quickly and is repeated several times. There is this bike minigame as well, which took me a lot longer to get the hang of than it should have done, but shifting gears correctly is pretty awkward anyway. I haven't been following the marketing for No More Heroes 3, but I do hope the bike comes back for a prominent feature again. Oh, and there is a little bit of platforming, fairly standard stuff, but just know you can hold down the jump button to keep bouncing, otherwise you'll be in hell! But, yeah, there's very little here outside of the presentation which kept me entertained, and it all became very tedious to get through far too quickly. I don't care how radically different the locales look from game to game, I'm not doing anything interesting in them. Now, I've seen a few people view this game as somewhat meta on Suda51's end, sort of a personal reflection of his own career up to that point. That's all well and good, but the main thing should be about whether or not it's enjoyable as a simple game before considering the hidden meaning behind it all. And it just didn't do it for me in that regard. It had some fun ideas, but ultimately I found the gameplay too monotonous to properly enjoy it. It's not the worst game out there, but I found it to be a bit of a letdown.